Hello and welcome to another session of Soulbody Yoga. Today's session will be about the spine and spine mobility and the strength of all the muscles that support the spine. So we are going to start with gentle mobilizations of the hips. So take your hips forward and backwards like this, tucking under and back out, so that these spaces between the vertebrae get hydrated and get nourished with joint fluid. So we're separating the front of the spine when we take the hips back. We're separating the back of the spine when the hips come forward. And then we'll do gently from side to side. And then we'll do gentle circles. One way and the other way. And then we'll come towards the spine from the top and go from side to side like this with the upper body. And softening into the ground as you are doing this. Soften with your feet into the ground. Keep your knees quite relaxed. Just allowing the arms to relax. And then we'll find the right position for the hips. And because the posture is also really important for the spinal health, what kind of posture we're holding ourselves in. So when we did this tucking under and back out, imagine that you have a basket and your hip is that basket that is tilting forward and backwards. And we want that hole at the top of the basket to be facing exactly forward. So one way that we can help ourselves to achieve that position where the spine gently sits inside that basket of the pelvis is by imagining you have helium balloons attached just underneath your navel. So the string of the helium balloons comes up. And automatically when you imagine those helium balloons rising up into the air, that will take the hips under but not forward. So see if you can imagine that action that those helium balloons would be doing. And then from here you lift your rib cage, and that automatically works the abdominal muscles. Relax the shoulders, and let's just take the shoulders forward, discovering and exploring your whole range of movement. Keep your hands relaxed and then take the shoulders backwards. And then do this in an alternating way, taking one arm up at a time. Then both arms straight, as if you're swimming backwards. Good, and then just let the arms rest down, let the shoulders relax. And then take your head forward and backwards. Like a turtle coming back into the shell. So your chin stays level with the ground as you go forward and backwards. And then we're going to go all the way back, so that the back of the head aligns with the back of the pelvis. So you have that helium balloon drawn up pelvis and the back of the head aligned with that pelvis, and the shoulders are relaxed and the rib cage is lifted. So, and now with that posture, I would like you to imagine that you have strings on each one of your fingertips. And let your imagination be really rich. So we're stretching our imagination as well. If you imagine you have a string on every one of your fingers and those strings are pulling into space, it's impossible that they'd be pulling like this. Your wrist would not go into this position. Your wrist would be in alignment with the whole of the arm if you were drawn up by your fingertips. And you imagine that those strings are little feelers extending into space, and you can then turn your palms, so your palms face forward, and still those strings are pulling on your fingertips, but also feeling into the space. So you imagine whatever your fingers are pointing at what the texture and temperature and general feel of that space is. And automatically, when you turn your palms forward, you have this openness in the front of the body. So let's emphasize that even more by putting a smile from collarbone to collarbone. So smiling from your chest, smiling from your heart. And lengthen into the crown. Soften into the feet. Maybe give even your toes a little wriggle. And just stand like this in Tadasana, mountain pose, for a moment, in this beautiful upright position. And then from here, imagine those strings are being moved up through the space. So your fingertips are still feeling whatever the fingertips are pointing at. So I'm feeling now the glass and the beams of our roof, but my shoulders are remaining quite relaxed. I'm just hanging from these feeler strings. And then you can take your right leg and put it in front of your left like this and lean yourself to the right. And your arms can meet, so your palms can meet up here, but keep your shoulders relaxed. And then your head can go from side to side just to bring some spaciousness into the neck to start with. And if you feel to do that, you can then look down. And you should feel a nice stretch on the side of the body. We will, in one of the future sessions, discuss the meridian this activates, which is the gallbladder, and why that's important. And then you come back, take the other leg forward, and come to the other side. This also is a good stretch for the IT band, which is something a lot of runners struggle with, a tightness in the IT band. And inhale, expand into that space that you are stretching. So expand into the side of the body with your breath, meeting whatever sensation is there with your inhale. And on the out breath, relaxing, imagining that any tension can just flow down through the feet into the ground. And your head can go from side to side again, bringing spaciousness into the neck region. Softening into the ground through your feet. And then gently opening, coming out. Take a moment just to stand and integrate. Notice what you notice. Notice what the sides of your body feel like after they have done that stretch. What sensations are there. Allowing your awareness to become really subtle, to notice what is happening on the inside. And then you take your head gently forward, allowing the back of the neck to feel the stretch, just going as far forward as you can, without the shoulders following. And then at some point, when it's impossible to go further down with the head, without the shoulders coming down, you let your shoulders hang, and then you keep continuing that curl down, one vertebra at a time. Bending your knees to make this safe for your back. You bend the knee even more. And you curl yourself further, one vertebra at a time, until you sit on the thighs with your body. So the trunk is resting on top of the thighs. And then you uncurl again, one vertebra at a time, mobilizing the back of the spine. One vertebra at a time coming up, shoulders, and last the head. And then the eyes coming up to the horizontal. And then again, we come down. The eyes go first. And then the head follows. Then the shoulders follow. Breathing out on the way down. Soften the feet into the ground as you come further and further to the ground. Until you rest on the thighs again. Just allowing the arms to hang, allowing the head to hang like a rag doll. Maybe you can even take your hands to the elbows and have a little bit of swinging in the shoulders so the shoulders can relax. Allow yourself to be playful here, but whatever you do, make sure that your body is resting properly on top of the thighs. So you might have to bend your thighs a little more so that the body can rest on there.
If that is really difficult for you, you can take a chair and sit with the edge of your buttocks on a chair, and that enables you to rest on top of your thighs more easily. And then you can take your hands and put them on the back of the pelvis and just allow the warmth of the hands to stream into your body, into the back of the pelvis, into your sacrum. And then if you are not sitting on a chair, you can even allow this to stream down, just letting some of that tension on the back of the body, on the bladder meridian, flow into the ground. And check in on yourself again. Is my head still relaxed? Are my feet still softening into the ground, or is there tension in the toes? Okay. And now let your arms hang one more time. Let your head dangle one more time. And then come down with your hips into a squatting position. So some of you might be able to do the squat quite easily. I'm taking my feet wide, toes pointing outwards, and I'm taking the arms on the inside and the palms meet in front of the heart, and then just letting the tailbone drop towards the ground. If this is hard for you, you can take a bolster or a big cushion that you have available and place the cushion like this. So you're getting the same position, just a bit less of the gravity. This mudra where the palms meet is also really important because in our fingers are the representation of all the elements: fire, air, water, earth, and space. As these elements meet from one palm to the other, that has really nice balancing effect on your emotional body, but also on your physical body. Basically, stay here for as long as that is comfortable for you, because this is a really nice position for the spine, for the spaciousness between the vertebrae. And we can breathe up and down along our spine. So inhaling up through the spine all the way to the space between the eyebrows. And on the out breath, just relaxing down the spine, out through the tailbone. So if you can, stay here a little longer. And just soften your feet more and more to the ground, softening the toes to the ground so that there is no tension held there. Then stay there. You can stop the video and come back to it once you're ready to move on. For us, we are going to now move on and come onto all fours. And then before we do anything else, I would like you to just tune in and see what feels good for your spine right now, what feels good for the shoulders, what feels good for the hips, just doing whatever feels good for you. Getting in contact with your intuition to notice what is the body's urge right now. And then once you're ready, you can take the shoulders away from the ears, lengthen the crown away from the tailbone, taking one arm forward and the opposite leg back, and we go up and down like this. And here we only have to go up all the way to being level with the spine, with the trunk. We don't need to go higher than that, because otherwise we're going to strain in the back. So we only need to go up to the same height as the trunk, and here you can lengthen a little and come back down. Going up, lengthen the fingertips away from the toes. Breathe out, come down. So I like to inhale on coming up and breathe out on coming down with a relaxation. But it's up to you what feels right for you. Again, this is one of those that you can do as long as that feels okay for you. So we all have different strength of the back. By the way, if you struggle being on your wrists for a long time, you can also do this from the elbow, with the elbow on the ground. And then coming up, holding it here, lengthening the fingertips away from the toes, and come back down. And then take another moment, notice what you notice. Shoulders away from the ears.
If you notice that the knee on the ground has become a little sore as you were doing this, then you can also take a cushion or a foam block like this and put it under the knee that is on the ground. So I'm going to demonstrate that now for doing the other side. So the shoulders on top of the hands, on top of the wrists, the hips on top of the knees. And then you take the one leg back and the opposite arm forward like this. Coming up, lengthen, and breathe out, come down. But you can have a moment of experimenting as well and seeing what suits me here, which way of breathing makes this more achievable, but also more absorbing for you. What feels more opening? And you can also support your spine by pulling your navel in and up as you are doing this. Again, pause the video if you want to do this a little longer. But for us, we're going to stop here, lengthening the fingertips away from the toes, making the body really long, and then coming down, and notice what you notice. Can even go in a little round back position, the hill and valley. Here in the valley, creating a valley with the upper back, and creating a hill with the upper back, just to bring spaciousness in there. And then bring the toes together, knees apart. Come and sit on your heels. If that is difficult for you sitting on the heels, then you can take a cushion or a foam block or a bolster or whatever you have and put that in between here. If it is difficult in the ankle region, then you can take a rolled up sock and put it underneath your ankles if that is a hard stretch for this area for you. And then we're going to take the hands to the ground. Just keep bringing your weight onto your heels, breathing out, softening the body onto the heels. And then enjoy the journey down into a child pose. Taking your time as you come down, maybe little movements, little bit of swaying from side to side as you're coming down. Make this as enjoyable for you as you possibly can. So, coming into posture is not about the posture, it's about the journey there and what happens in the body on the way. Until at some point you get to the ground and you just allow yourself to surrender to the ground. Breathing deeply. Inhale, expand, expanding the trunk in all directions, to the back, to the side, to the front. Breathe out, soften. Enjoying your breath. Enjoying receiving the breath with every cell of your body. And then take your time. In the same time as you went down, take your time to slowly come up and enjoy by doing a bit of swaying, a bit of stretching, one arm at a time. Whatever feels good, go with that. And then when you're ready, we're going to go and lie on the back. Allowing the soles of the feet to come together and bringing the feet as close as possible to the hips as you can, as that feels comfortable for you, and just allow the knees to drop down to the side. If this is a bit tense in your hips or in your groin, then you can put cushions underneath the knees to support yourself. And then we're going to take the arms up behind the body, Imagine those strings again on your fingertips, lengthen into space, and then those strings that are on your fingertips are moving the arm. And those strings are synchronized with your breath. So as the arms come down towards the legs, you breathe out. And then your inhale makes those strings move up. And feeling into the space as you're doing this, this makes the joints and the muscles around the joints move in a very different way, in a much more spacious way. And also the muscles engage in a more efficient way if you move in this way, as if space was moving your fingertips. And you can feel what is the feeling of whatever I am pointing at if I were to touch it for real. So I'm feeling the glass as my hands come up, smooth and cold. I'm feeling the beams, a tiny bit warmer but still smooth. I'm feeling the walls. I'm feeling the plants. And allowing the shoulders to really open into this. Breathing spaciousness into the shoulder joint. And then at some point, you just allow the arms to lie back. If you have trouble reaching all the way back with your shoulders, then you can take a bolster or a cushion underneath your arms just to give yourself a little more space there. And breathing deeply. Inhale, expand into the front, side, back. Breathe out, soften into earth. And then when you're ready, you take the legs back up, you take the arms next to the body. Just lay there for a moment, noticing everything you notice. Notice the connection of the back to the ground. Where is the back connected to the ground? Where is it off the ground? And then, the last thing we are going to do to strengthen the muscles around the spine, the supporting muscles around the spine, are the abdominals, so the stomach muscles. So you take your hips, lift them and shift them to the side like this. So it looks like your spine is a little skew with your trunk. And then you take your knees up, so your knees are above the hips. You have a 90-degree angle in your knee. And your arms come out to the side, shoulders away from the ears, but the elbows can be a little higher than the shoulders, if that's available to you, and you have an open angle in your elbows. And if you have shifted your hips to the right, then you take your knees to the left in a moment. But before we do that, pull your navel in and up to really strengthen your belly muscles, pushing the abdominal muscles into the spine to really support that spine. And then on an out breath, you come down to the side. And look, I'm not going to go all the way to the ground. I'm going to hover above the ground, but breathing and melting the opposite shoulder to the ground. If the shoulder comes off the ground too much, then again you can take one of those blocks or cushions that you have available and just support your shoulder so you have something to lean on there, like this. And you're holding this for as long as you can, allowing your stomach muscles, your abdominals to get really strong, pulling the navel in and up more and more. So it's also up to you a little bit how hard you work. The more you pull your navel in and up, the harder you work. But if that really doesn't get it, then you can also straighten your legs, so it will be a little harder for you to hold. I personally don't need to have it much harder. This is already working me quite enough. And then I'm going to take my legs to the ground and rest into this twist, bringing a bit of spaciousness to the neck region, taking the head from side to side. And then at some point, just looking in the opposite direction to where the knees are pointing. And surrender to the ground. You can also here at this point, I'm just going to turn around so you can see me better. You can focus on the point between the eyebrows and inhale through there, because the twists engage the third eye, so your intuitive capacity and faculty is going to be attuned and strengthened. Breathing deeply in all sides of the trunk, feeling where you're feeling that stretch, and breathe out, soften. If you would like to stay here a little longer, please do pause the video and come back to it. We are going to slowly move out. Realign the spine. Rest into the ground for a moment. Notice what you notice. Notice how one side of the body feels different to the other. Notice the quality and the speed of your breath. And then when you're ready, you take your hips to the left, taking the legs up, again in the 90-degree angle. Pull your navel in and up, and slowly come with your legs to the ground. Pull the navel in and up. Remember, if you want this to be a little harder, you can stretch the legs out. I don't really need to do that. Check in, are my shoulders really melting to the ground? Soften the opposite shoulder into the ground as you're doing this. And then at some point, when you're ready, you can take the legs to the ground, softening into this full twist position. And then you can take your head from side to side to get spaciousness into the neck area again. Allowing that opposite shoulder to really soften into the ground. And then when that feels right for you, you can look into opposite direction to where the knees are pointing. And just enjoy that twist, breathing through the third eye. Inhaling through the space between the eyebrows. And breathe out, soften into the ground. You can stay here a little longer if you wish to do so. We are going to move on, so I'm going to take another deep breath. And sighing is always good, because sighing really releases tension, or yawning even. And then we're going to come and sit up for a short meditation. So once you are sitting on the ground, you can choose any way to sit, cross-legged, a normal cross-legged position, Sukhasana, easy pose, or you can come into Siddhasana where you have a heel-groin alignment, or you can come into a half lotus, or if that's available and easy for you, into a full lotus. But what's really important is that your spine is effortlessly straight. So if as you sit, you notice that you're going like this into the back and it's hard for you to pull up from there, then it might be that you need to have a little lift. So I like to use these foam blocks, but you can also use any cushion or even a book that you have in your household and just sit with the edge of your buttocks. So just about letting the sitting bones come on. It doesn't need to come all the way through. And then you take the flesh away from the sitting bones. And this way you have your knees a little lower than your hips. You might have to go even higher to be able to achieve that. So this way the hip flexors is relaxed, and it's much easier for the spine to be in that straight alignment. And then close your eyes and focus on any sensations that you are feeling inside your body, lifting up through the crown, becoming aware of the vertical axis that goes through your body from the crown all the way to the space between the sitting bones. Inhale, lengthen along that line. Breathe out, soften. And if you imagine that long line going through your body, even imagine it going beyond your body into the space above and going beneath the body into the ground below. You imagine your body is elongating along that line on the inhale. And on the out-breath, everything beyond that line in the periphery of that central channel just relaxes down to the ground like a waterfall coming over your body. So the eyes soften, the jaws relax, the shoulders relax, the hips relax, the knees relax. So you have that wonderful balance between the effort towards that length, towards that elongation, but also that relaxation of the rest of the body. Everything that is not necessary for your uprightness can just relax down to the ground. Allowing the out breath to maybe even be a little longer than the in breath. Receiving the in breath, allowing the in breath to expand into your whole body. On the out breath, soften. And you can sit here for as long as that feels good for you. I recommend 5 to 10 minutes of sitting in this way with that focus of that effort towards the effortless. So the effort towards the upright, with that wonderful balance of relaxation with the out breath, whilst you maintain your uprightness. That is the effort towards the effortless. So sit there for as long as that feels good for you. Namaste. Thank you for joining me with Soulbody Yoga. With love and blessings.